It's the International Soccer Preview, and we are Soccer Files Canada. Welcome to our continuation of Series 19, this one looking at the players of the 2023 Asian Cup. This episode is part 2 of the players of China. Here we go. Hello, we are back for part 2 of our mediacast on the players of the 2023 Asian Cup. The final roster is released and we're looking at China's selections. In part 1, we compiled a list of players and their likelihood of reaching the final squad. That was based mostly on their participation over usually the past 2 years. We considered a few other factors as well. And today we review that list. And we promised to point out any surprises, any notable non-selections, surprise inclusions, or new players. And we also said that we would cover any injuries. So we will do all of those things as we go through the list again. And at the end, for a bit of fun, we'll also boldly predict our starting lineup in the Spotlight Review. Let us jump right in and look at the candidates we had. So for the manager, we had Alexander Jankovic, his name in grey because he has not been through a tournament, but that will soon be rectified. And nothing has changed there, and so we still consider him the starter, as it were, or the as having been selected. For goalkeepers, we have a new, and in fact, the only new candidate to the list. So we're going to add Jian Tao at the new level. Just give me a moment to sort out my graphics here. Jian Tao at the new level. And let's look at the list and see. By the way, I should say that China did not produce a preliminary squad here, so all of the players that we'll be adding will be basically automatically selected. So Jian Tao, we might as well put him in green right now because he was selected. And let's just give a little brief biography on him, since we didn't do so in the previous podcast. He's young, 22 years old. No caps for the China team. Never been selected even on the bench prior to being named to the squad here. However, he does have a lot of experience with the underage teams, playing for every single age between 15 and 21 in the underage team. He's currently playing for Chengdu Rongcheng in China, but actually did some, I'd basically call it training in France, where in 2019 he was sent over to the Lyon Youth Club in France, and then he moved on to the Villefranche Youth Club and actually played with their senior team in the first year. So Jian Tao, a young goalkeeper, but looks like they're kind of grooming him for the future. So he is one of the selections. The other candidates we had were definite candidate Yan Junling, likely candidate Wang Delei, possible candidate Liu Jianzhu, and then we won't mention the possible but unlikely or seem to be off the squad unless they are selected. So all three of our candidates here were selected. So Yan Junling, Wang Delei, and Liu Jianzhu. So they're bringing 4 goalkeepers to the cup. Most teams are bringing 3, and I should say they're allowed to bring 26 players to the cup. Okay, those are the 4 keepers, and in the Spotlight Review, we'll try to predict which one is going to be the starter. Let's move on to defenders, and here we had a definite candidate. English name is Tyus Browning, and Chinese name is Jiang Guangtai. And we also have a possible candidate, Zhu Chenji, and then that was a likely candidate, Zhu Chenji, and 3 possible candidates in Wu Xiaokong, Gao Junyi, and Wei Zhen. And we had a couple of possible but unlikely candidates. Neither of them made it, so we won't list them here. Our definite candidate, Tyus Browning, or Jiang Guang Tai, was selected, as was the likely candidate Zhu Chenji, I should say, and Wu Xiaokong also selected, the first of the possible candidates. However, Gao Junyi and Wei Zhen, two possible candidates, were not selected. Over to the left backs, and we had no definite candidate here, but a likely candidate in Liu Yang, and possible candidate, two of them actually, Li Lei and Li Shui. Liu Yang was selected, our likely candidate, and the first of the possible candidates, Li Lei, also selected for the squad, but Li Shui not selected there. On the right side, we had a likely candidate in Zhang Lin Pen. Sorry, just let me find my place in the graphics there. Likely Zhang Lin Pen, and then two possible candidates in Sun Bao Wen and He Yupeng. And we had three possible but unlikely candidates there, but they didn't make it. But I did have on my list one of the players. I had three players who seemed to be off the squad. Make that four players. We didn't introduce them in the podcast because they were too far off the squad, but one of them made it. So I'll tell you about that right away here. We'll just review the candidates we have. So Zhang Lin Pen, the likely candidate, was selected. None of the possible candidates, Sung Gao Wen or He Yupeng, neither of those were selected, nor were any of the three possible but unlikely candidates. However, one of the four seemingly off the squad players, Zhu Haofeng, makes it to the squad. Wow, I'll give a bit of biography on him. He is 24 years old and was with the team since 2022 with 3 caps, but his only caps were in the EAFF Championship. That's the local cup, the EA standing for East Asia. So in Asia, compared to, say, Africa, more of the first team players do play in these local cups, but nevertheless, it's a surprise. And Zhu Haofeng beating the odds there to meet the squad. We move up to the midfield, and we did have one versatile midfielder, or general or versatile midfielder. He's actually coded as a defensive midfielder, but he was playing all over the place, so we moved him here. It is a possible candidate, Dae Wei Sun. And he was selected for the squad, Dae Wei Sun, so we will put his name in a green highlight there. Defensive midfielders, we had 2 likely candidates in Li Ke, but he is actually a Westerner whose name is Yanaris Nico Yanaris. I'm sorry. Actually born in England, but that is a Greek name. Nico Yanaris. We have more to say about him, but for the time being, no, I'm just introducing the candidates. The other likely candidate was Wang Shangwan. And then we had 3 possible candidates, Wang Shenchao, Gao Tianyi, and Zhang Jiaqi. 3 possible ones. And here too, among the 4 players that I don't think we mentioned in the previous podcast because they were seemingly off the squad, we have another player coming in out of the cold, as it were. So let's go back to the top and deal with some of the what we got to tell you here. So Li Ke, or Nico Yanaris, was selected for the final squad, but withdrew due to personal reasons. So we'll put him in pink here. Withdrew due to personal reasons and was replaced by Zhu Jin, who we will meet shortly. Wang Shangwan, the other likely candidate, though, was selected. And among our possible candidates, only one of the three was selected. That's the middle one, Gao Qianyi, was selected. So Wang Shenchao and Jiang Jiaqi not selected. But we have one who was seemingly off the squad that was selected, and that is Jiang Shenglong. Not only was he selected, but has been playing an important role in the recent games, as we'll see when we get to the spotlight section. But he too had his only games in July 2022 in that East Asian Football Championship. So again, brought in out of the cold. He's 23 years old and just those two caps in 2022. So definitely was a surprise. And the only two games he had played were as a defensive midfielder. And we're going to see, I might as well tell you now, that he's right in the center of a three-man defense. So playing a very important role in, I think, 3 of the last 4 games. So there we go. Jiang Shenlong also beating the odds. Central midfielders, we had two likely candidates, Wu Ji and Zhu Jin. That was the player I just mentioned. I'll come back to him. The possible candidate there was Wang Kuiming. And the possible but unlikely we won't mention because he wasn't selected. So basically all 3 of these selected. Wu Ji, the captain of the team, selected. Zhu Jin was not selected. However, when Nico Linares or Li Ke withdrew for those personal reasons, it was Zhu Jin brought in to replace him. So Zhu Jin now on the squad. And the possible candidate, Wang Kuiming, also selected there, probably will be a substitute. And that is it for the central defenders. Let's see if we have any left or right midfielders. We don't actually see candidates coded this way much anymore. We did have one seemingly off the squad, and he was not selected. So left and right midfielders, no candidates. So we move up to the upper left quadrant of the field. Left wingers, left attacking midfielders, probably possibly left forwards too. So we had one, no definite candidates, but one likely candidate in Chen Pu, and several possible candidates, 4 of them in Wei Shihao, Lin Liangming, Fang Hao, and Liu Binbin. And 3 of them were selected. I'll start actually with Chen Pu. Chen Pu was selected, and 3 of the possible candidates, Wei Shihao, Lin Liangmin, and Liu Binbin, all 3 of them selected. Fang Hao not selected there. Over to right wingers. Just give me a moment. I'm fixing up something here. Right wingers then. Wu Li, he's really kind of a right winger and a forward. I think we put him here because he had mostly played on the right. A definite candidate was Wu Li, and then we had a likely candidate in Ji Pingfei. And we also had a possible but unlikely candidate who we won't mention. Anyway, both of these players made it, Wu Lei and Ji Pingfei, both selected for the squad. And we move on to attacking midfielders. Actually, we had very little in the way of attacking midfielders or secondary strikers. We had 2 attacking midfielders who were seemingly off the squad, and they were not selected. And same thing with 1 secondary striker. So ultimately, we have no selections here. But the forwards, we had no definite candidates, but 2 likely ones. Elkerson, his Chinese name is similar, Ai Kesen. was a likely candidate, along with Tan Long. Both of those likely. And then we had two possibles, Wang Jiming and Ji Weizhen. And here too, we have a player among the four players we had. Hang on, that is six players we had seemingly off the squad, who I don't think we introduced. Well, we didn't, because they're not on the graphic. We didn't want to spend the time talking about these players, but let's go back to the top. 35-year-old Tan Long made the squad, but Brazilian Elkerson did not make the squad. And really, that's the only surprise here. The only kind of unexpected thing. We had him as a likely candidate, and he was not selected. So otherwise, things have gone according to plan, except for the players brought in out of the cold. Tan Long, then, a likely candidate, selected. The both possible candidates, Wang Jiming and Ji Weizhen, were not selected, neither of them. But coming in out of the cold was Zhang Yuning, seemingly off the squad. Let me tell you a bit about him. He's actually has some experience with the team since 2016. He had 22 caps and 5 goals, and is certainly young enough. He's 26 years old. He plays for Beijing Guan in China, but was with West Bromwich Albion in England for a time, and also loaned to Werder Bremen. So has more experience than most because he was in Netherlands before that. So basically from 2016 to 2019, he played in Europe there. Over the past 2 years, he had started 3 of their 11 games and was subbed in for 1. But we didn't think he seemed to be off the squad because he missed the last 7 matches. That was our reason for not having him on the list before. But here he is, Zhang Yuning. And there we go. So that is actually the complete list of candidates. And now we move on to our Spotlight Review, where we try to predict which players are going to be starting. So just let me go back to the top of my list of players with all the information I have. And so Alexander Jankovic, we're going to call him a starter. We don't think he will be changed. Goalkeeper Yan Juning, we're quite confident about that. So we highlight his name in green. We're confident he's going to be the starter. In central defense, we are confident that Zhu Zhenji will be one of the starters, but we're really confused about who's going to start alongside him for a couple of reasons. First of all, Tyrus Browning or Jiang Guangte looked like he was going to be starters when we did part 1 of the mediacast. However, he's only started 1 of their 4 games, the last friendly since then. So this includes the 2 World Cup qualifiers, which we take more seriously because we believe they would have put their best team out there. Another confusing factor is that they continue to go with a 3-man backline. And so are using kind of out of position players. So we think for that reason that we're just going to put Tyrus Browning as a likely starter, Jiang Guangte, and we're going to add 2 that they've used over the last couple of games. One is Zhang Ningpeng. He's a right back actually, and the other is Jiang Shenglong, who really kind of came in out of the cold to start not only in that 3-man defense, but in the center of it. So he is actually, we had him as a midfielder because the only 2 starts he had over the past couple of years were as a defensive midfielder. So yeah, not really sure what's going to happen back then, even the formation that they'll lose. We have 2 candidates at left back, Liu Yang and Li Lei, but we don't really have the confidence to put them there as starters. We're not sure that they're going to use those players, especially if they use a three-man back line. So we are not going to put anyone at left back. On the other hand, at right back is the player we mentioned as a central defender. So it seems he moves back into central defense if it's a three-man back line. Otherwise, we think Zhang Linpen will be the right back if they use that position. Not necessarily so, though, if that right back pushes up to a midfield position. Central midfielders, Wu Ji, we think is a definite starter. We would have said Li Ke or Nico Yanaris. However, as we saw, he withdrew for personal reasons. So we think it's likely that they're going to use Wang Shang Yuan, but we're not confident about that. So we put it in a blue highlight as a likely starter. Left wing, Wei Shi Hao. Was not actually our top candidate, but he has started the last 4 games. So both World Cup qualifiers and both friendlies. So we're going to nominate him as a starter now. On the right wing, we actually, because of the formations they've been using, we're going to nominate 2 candidates here. Liu Bin, who we hadn't rated nearly as highly when we did part 1. I think we had him as a possible candidate, but we think he's going to be a starter, but in a more defensive role, as in a right winger. But if it's a more offensive role, like a right attacking midfielder or a right forward, or just a plumb forward, we think Wu is a definite starter regardless. And then finally, our forward, Tan Long, we think is going to be the starting forward, perhaps alongside Wu Lei, or perhaps as a sole forward. All right, that brings us to the end of the spotlight, and also to the end of part 2 of our podcast on China's players. So we hope that this helps you to enjoy the tournament more, knowing who the players are a little bit better. We'd like to thank Naver Avacham and Pixabay for the wonderful music you hear in this mediacast. The title is called Arabic Trap.